You're 14 years old in rural South Africa when your father coughs blood into the cooking fire, not into a basin, not into his hand, into the fire. It hisses once. Your mother looks away. You don't. He has just come back from the gold mines on the Rand, thinner than when he left, older than when he should be, carrying a blanket, a dented tin mug, and a chest full of dust. He doesn't say much that night. Men who come back from the mines rarely do. Before dawn, he takes a small brown booklet from under the sleeping mat and puts it in your hands. Don't lose this, he says, or they'll take the rest. It's a passbook, a dampa. Your first lesson under apartheid is simple. If the state can control your movement, it can rent your life by the month. Under apartheid, past laws were one of the main instruments used to control where black South Africans could live, work, and travel, especially in white urban areas. The 1952 law replaced older passes with nationwide reference books that black South Africans had to carry, and the broader system of influx control kept black people in rural areas while drawing their labor into mines and cities. And that's how it begins. Your life as a black mine migrant under apartheid. Before the mines, your world was already smaller than it should have been. Long before you were born, the state had fenced black life into reserves and homelands, leaving white South Africa with most of the land and the jobs that paid. By the time apartheid became official in 1948, the trap was already built. Apartheid just locked it. The state wanted black labor in the city and on the mines, but not black families as permanent urban citizens. That contradiction is where your life begins to rot. At 15, your father can't go back underground. His cough is too deep now. His shoulders shake when he laughs. Some days he can't stand straight by noon. But the field behind your hut won't feed 5 people. And the money he sent from the mine stopped the month his body started failing. So now it's your turn. No speech. No ceremony. No pride. Just a train ticket, a passbook, and your mother sewing your name into the inside of your shirt like that might stop a system from swallowing it. At the Labor Bureau, they fingerprint you, photograph you, write down your tribal district like that explains anything, and stamp your booklet with permission to work where you are not allowed to belong. That is the genius of apartheid. It doesn't ban your labor. It bans your permanence. The train of the Rand smells like old sweat, coal dust, and fear. Young men from the Transkei, men from Zululand, men from Lesotho and Mozambique, some excited, some silent, some pretending not to be afraid because fear spreads faster than rumor in a packed rail carriage. Everyone carries a bag. Everyone carries a passbook. That little booklet tells the police who you are, where you're allowed to be, who employs you, and how quickly the law can throw you back out. Lose it, and you are not just undocumented. You are removable, arrestable, disposable. A man across from you taps his breast pocket every 10 minutes to make sure his dampa is still there. He isn't protecting a document. He's protecting the legal fiction that he has a right to exist where the train is taking him. Johannesburg hits you like a lie told at full volume. Smoke, wire, mine dumps rising pale and poisonous against the sky. White neighborhoods with trees. Black workers moving through the edges of the city like men borrowing time. You thought the city would feel like a rival. It feels like being tolerated at gunpoint. Gold turned the Witwatersrand into the industrial heart of South Africa, and black migrant workers became the backbone of that labor force. But the same system that needed them also kept them in massive, single-sex compounds and hostels close to the workplace, so they could work in the city without settling in it as equals. The compound is your first real education. High fences, crowded rooms, rows of bunks, men packed together by the dozens, concrete, tin, noise, searches, no wife, no children, no home, just a bed, a locker, and a number. The compound system was built to control labor as much as to house it. Over time, the mining compounds fed into the broader hostile system of migrant labor under apartheid, designed to keep workers cheap, segregated, and temporary. Overcrowding, surveillance, and violence were not flaws in the system. They were part of how it worked. A man on the bunk above you says, "The mine owns your daylight. The compound owns your night." He says it like a joke. Nobody laughs. At 16, you go underground for the first time. The cage drops so fast your stomach thinks you are dying before your brain can argue. The air gets hotter the deeper you go. The rock presses in. Men shout over drills, over blasting, over the metallic scream of labor made permanent. Sweat runs down your ribs and black dust sticks to it until your whole body feels varnished in exhaustion. White men supervise. Black men carry. That was not an accident. South Africa's racial labor order reserved many skilled and better paid positions in mining and railways for white workers, while black workers were concentrated in the most dangerous, lowest paid labor. By the end of your first shift, your hands won't unclench all the way. By the end of your first month, the sun feels unfamiliar. The money comes in envelopes. Not enough, but real. Your mother writes that she bought Malai meal, that your younger sister stayed in school another term, that your father's cough is worse, that the roof still leaks over the sleeping mat when the storms come. You read the letter 3 times. That's what keeps you in the cage. Not loyalty to the mine, not obedience to the state. Remittance. The system knows this. That's why it works so well. It makes your love profitable to other people. At 17, the police stop you outside the station after work. Pass. 1 word. That's all it takes to turn a man into paperwork. Your hands shake when you hand it over. The officer flips through the pages slowly, enjoying the silence. Stamp, employer, district, permission, renewal date, address, signature. Your whole legal existence fit into a booklet thin enough to lose in rain. He finds nothing wrong, gives it back. You walk away with your legs weak, as if you escaped a beating. That's what past laws do after a while. The police don't need to arrest you every day. They only need to teach your nerves that they could. Then Sharperville happens. It reaches the compounds in fragments first. Men whisper in queues, in the showers, in the dark after lights out. Protesters went without passes. Police opened fire. Bodies in the street. Women, men, even children. On March 21st, 1960, police in Sharperville opened fire on a crowd protesting past laws, killing about 69 people and wounding more than 180. The massacre became a major turning point in the anti-apartheid struggle. That night, nobody in your room sleeps properly. Not because Sharperville is close, because it isn't. A country is worse than broken when murder travels faster than hope. At 19, your father dies. Not in the mine. At home. In the same hut he kept trying to repair between contracts. Your mother's letter is only 6 lines long. She says he went quiet at the end. She says he asked whether your passbook was still valid. She says he didn't want trouble for the family. You read that sentence again and again. He didn't want trouble for the family. Even dying, he was still negotiating with apartheid. You don't go home for the funeral. You can't. No leave approved. No travel permission. No wages if you disappear. That's the migrant labor system at its most efficient. It doesn't just separate men from their families. It teaches families to mourn on separate schedules. At 21, you know the compound by smell alone. Boot polish, bleach, sweat, paraffin, wet socks, old anger. You know which room gets rated more, which corridor to avoid after payday, which foreman steals, which police sergeant likes making men empty their pockets in the dirt, which hostile fights start with football and end with knives. You also know this. If you stay too long, the system begins to feel normal. That's the real danger, not just exploitation. Adaptation. A prison is strongest the moment the prisoners start calling it life. At 24, you try to bring your wife to the city, just for a while, just long enough for your first child to know your face before he starts calling some other man father in your place. The clerk doesn't even look sorry when he says no. No family accommodation. No rights to permanent residence. No Section 10 qualification. No, the migrant labor system under apartheid was built around exactly that refusal. Black workers could be recruited into white South Africa's economy, but the state tried to prevent them from settling there permanently with their families. You walk out of the office understanding something you should have understood years earlier. The mind does not employ you as a whole man, only the useful parts. Back, hands, lungs, time. The rest of you can stay in the homeland and wait. At 27, the rockfall kills 3 men in your section. 1 from Lesotho, 1 from the Eastern Cape, 1 whose name you never learned because he arrived only 2 weeks before. Work stops for an hour, then resumes. That's a rhythm of industrial death. Not grief. Replacement. Another train arrives. More young men step off. More passbooks in breast pockets. More sons carrying the rent of whole households on bodies the state will never protect as fully human. You watch them file in and realize the mind is not fed by gold. It is fed by succession. By your 30s, your son is almost old enough to work. That terrifies you more than the police ever did. He writes you one letter saying he wants to come to Johannesburg. He heard the city has electric lights that never go dark. That men there can earn cash every month. That maybe he can help. You sit on your bunk for an hour staring at the paper. Then you write back, no, not because you want better for him. Because you finally know what the system does to a man. It doesn't only bend his back. It teaches him to live divided. 1 body in the city, 1 family in the countryside, 1 name in the passbook, another in his mother's mouth. Then, slowly, the laws begin to shift. Not all at once. Not cleanly. Not kindly. Pressure builds. Resistance grows. Strikes. Uprisings, funerals. Police, more funerals. The past system that ruled your nerves for decades begins to crack. In 1986, the requirement for black South Africans to carry past documents was finally ended. Men in the hostel cheer when the news comes. Some laugh, some cry, some don't react at all. You sit on your bed and stare at the booklet in your hand. Same brown cover, same fingerprints, same years. When fear has trained your body long enough, repeal feels less like freedom than a delayed correction. Too late for your father. Too late for your marriage. Too late for all the nights your children learn to sleep without your footsteps outside the door. You go home more often after that. Not because the system has suddenly become moral, because it is getting weaker. Your wife is older than the version of her you carried in your head. Your son is a man. Your daughter is shy around you in a way that feels earned. The hut has a tin patch where your remittances finally fix the roof. You stand under in the rain and feel no triumph at all. That's the dirty trick of surviving apartheid. When the bars loosen, you expect release. What you get first is inventory. What it cost, who it took, how much of yourself was spent just staying legible to the law. You survive the mines. But survive is too generous a word. You survive the passbook. You survive compound life. You survive police checks and renewal stamps and long trains that carried men toward wages and away from belonging. You survive the job color bar, the dust, the hostels, the loneliness, the humiliating arithmetic of sending home just enough money to keep everybody alive and nobody whole. You survive all of it. But the boy who thought work would make him a man, he doesn't. Apartheid takes him and returns a worker. That is the genius of labor systems built on race. They don't just exploit you. They reorganize what kind of person you are allowed to become. People will remember apartheid with photographs of signs, policemen, protests, and speeches. They should, but there was another prison inside it, quieter, repetitive, built from trains, compounds, contracts, and stamp pages. A passbook can be as efficient as a prison wall. A hostel can be as lonely as exile. A wage can be a leash if your family only eats when you wear it. You've seen South Africa under apartheid. where a black man's movement was licensed, his labor extracted, and his family life treated like an administrative inconvenience. But north across the continent, another empire was facing a different kind of threat. Not miners, not passbooks, not compounds. A city, a safe house, a courier, and a war hidden in plain sight.